love it.
Oh, I don't know how to change that. You changed it. Fix it, Jen.
Oh, I can't. You do it when you sign in. You'll do it.
Yeah, yeah.
When you sign in, you have to like change your name. Oh wait,
That's all right.
no, you can hover over your name and change it. That's why I did it. I did it when you were on my channel.
Okay.
I was able to do it, but you don't have to. It's funny. Anyway.
Hello, everyone. I guess we're live.
Yeah, we should be.
We have people watching. We're just having a conversation. It's fine.
We're just happy to be together today. It's gonna be great.
Yes. Hello. Welcome. We need to welcome Justin. We have a special guest. We are very, very excited that Justin is here with us. And yeah.
Very faithful member to like all the book clubs. I love it.
And he always has such great things to say. Like I love his comments. They're always
you guys are the only source for me to like talk about historical romance. So
yeah, that makes sense. I'd love to know how you got interested in historical romance too, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, let's start with that.
I know that's kind of a spur of the moment question, but
yeah.
I was just thinking the other day is that I think it's so random. It was obviously during COVID, so basically everyone's at home, and I think YouTube just recommended me Jazz piece of books, eBay mystery box.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the mystery box.
So those are such fun days.
Totally, yeah. I watched that, and I'm a graphic designer, so I'm definitely judging books by their cover. I was like, what are these cool cover books? Let me look into them. And then I started looking into them and started reading them. I was like, oh, I'm actually kind of enjoying this. And I found you guys.
That's awesome.
I love that. I mean, there were some great covers, you know, even the ones that aren't like sexy ones, they're so interesting. Like the art on them and the designs and stuff is really cool.
Yeah. Even just like the production, like all the foiling and the debossing, embossing. Yeah.
The fonts and everything. It's just,
It's funny we're talking about covers because I also wanted to do a tiny bit of show and tell if I'm allowed to, because I have my haul. I won't show all of them, but my haul from Wanderlust, and I have to show off just a couple of these covers because you guys will appreciate them. Because some of them are exclusive to book signings, like you can only get them from the authors when you go to book signings. And like, look at these, like the foil on this.
Wow.
Covers.
What book is that? That's really beautiful.
Well, this is a bind up of, I guess he's an ex-priest and now he's a hitman. That's how she sold it. I literally walked up to her table. I was like, Callie Hart, I haven't read your stuff yet. I know you're great. Tell me what you like. And so this is like an ex-priest who's a hitman. So it's literally called Dirty Nasty Freaks. So each book is called one of those. Like they're called Dirty Nasty Freaks. So I was like, cool. And then this one is this is like
oh, nice.
They have to try to find her sister, I guess. Her sister was kidnapped or something. So
those are cool. Yeah.
Yeah. This is
interesting use of color too.
I know. I got all the audiobooks were just on the Audible sale too for like $3 each. So that's cool. But anyway.
Every day I buy a few more of those.
Oh, one other one. You gotta love a pomegranate. Look at those.
Nice. Yeah.
Cool. Anyway.
Those are beautiful.
Because I love it. But anyway, yay, Rake Appreciation Society Day. That's right. I'm excited.
We're very excited. I feel like it's been forever since I have talked to you guys. I haven't had a video in what feels like a very long time. I was gonna film one and then I just keep getting busy and I don't know. Excuses. But I've got a lot to talk about when I finally do film one.
I mean, it's good though. It'll make it feel fresh and new when you get it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Besides, also maybe forgetting what you do. Like I hadn't filmed one in 1 week because I had pre-filmed so far. Like I hadn't filmed in a week, and I was like, wait, how do I do this stuff? It like took me a while to remember how to talk about stuff, even after a week. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know how you guys fit into your schedule. I definitely was toying with the idea of like filming for YouTube, but I was like, I don't know where to find the time.
Man, I wish you did though.
I wish you did too. I would.
More dudes.
Oh gosh, I so wish you would, Justin. I would absolutely love that. But that's the main reason why I haven't been, is because like I love making the videos, but then there are other parts of my life that suffer, and so I'm like, okay, I need to kind of stop and get some things in order, and then come back. You know, so
yeah,
I don't manage it well at all.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I mean, well, we know how I manage it. You just get fired from your job, and then excuse me.
You manage it very well. You're very organized.
I mean, I did it for 4 years before that, so it's you find time, but yeah. So, but.
Well, welcome everyone. We're so happy to have you. I brought my books down this time, actually.
Yay!
I am very excited.
Step backs, don't you? I didn't.
Yes, you.
Yeah.
I
wasn't trying to find it, but
actually,
go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say it was actually kind of like meant to be, because there was a small thrift store next door to my building, and then this is the only historical romance book they have on shelf, and only Amanda Quick. And I was like
that's amazing.
Meant to be. I need to be on this show.
that was definitely meant to be.
Yeah,
I love it.
It was only $2 too, so
nice.
I love it. Well, shall we start with our ratings? Should we just jump right on in?
Yeah, let's see what everyone has.
Everybody leave your rating in the comments, and we will start there, and then we will discuss. I'm going to give my rating last, so you guys go first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you go first.
Sure, I'll go. I ended up at a 3.5. I had a fun time. I'm gonna have a lot of like bad stuff to say, so I'll say up the front, like, I did have a fun time. Well, I mean, it's gonna sound bad. That's my point. Okay. It's gonna sound like it was bad because I have a lot to nitpick about this. But this is also my first book by her. From what I saw in some reviews, I think that either people think this is her worst one or her best one, because like that's how it goes. Like for nostalgia type books, like this is a 1990 release, so for a book like this, you're gonna have people that stand by this book forever. But like for me, there were certain things I was letting slide by, and then there were certain things where I was like, okay, that's too annoying, I have to dock some points for this. But overall, like I liked the vibe of this, listening to the audio, I liked kind of the mystery / is it a ghost / I was a ghost to somebody, so I'm pretty sure it's fake because like ghosts aren't real, but like I don't know. So I don't know. The whole thing is like I like the vibe of it, so I give it more of a pass. But I mean, if I hadn't this was stretched out over a few days. If I had been going through this like in one sitting, I think it would have drove me crazy because there's so anyway, I ended at a 3.5 star. It's probably lower. I rounded up to a 4 even because I was just like, I'll put it at a 4. But anyway, there's mine. Like it was okay. I did not hate this. I have read many worse. Let's say that. That's why I'm at like but
thanks.
Anyway.
Justin, do you want to go?
Sure. I give it a 4. It's pretty solid 4. This is my third Amanda Quick. So I read Ravish and Reckless. I think vibe and atmosphere is definitely her strength. I feel like reading her books kind of like having a really balanced meal. Because you got your romance and you got your like the mystery, and then the mystery is actually pretty deep. Like it's not like a random non-mystery that just got thrown in there. And I like historical romance that constantly switch locations. Like they're always at different spots, and I feel like Amanda Quick does that really well. So you really are immersed in kind of like that time period. And then I feel like there are definitely some annoying moments. I'm curious to hear what Jen thinks are the annoying aspect, but but overall, I really enjoy it. I think I enjoy all her books so far equally.
No. I'm like surprised the constant 4. Like
I really am too. Yeah.
Like the lowest I've seen is a 3. Nobody like shamed this book.
Well, I haven't given mine yet.
Yeah. Good. What you got? because
I gave it a 2-star.
Yeah.
This was, so I had owned, this is only the second book of hers that I've read before, and I was very impressed with Reckless, that I got that recommendation from you, Justin, and I thought it was really quite good. Like, the whole thing, it was a very cohesive story. The romance was great. I thought her mystery element was really well done. I really liked her writing style, which seemed to fit the time period really well. I think it has that tendency to be a little bit dry, but it just meshes with that time period and what you expect from characters in that time. Anyway, this isn't about Reckless. I really liked Reckless. This book, I had a lot of problems with this book. And it made me like feel so bad. Like I even went back to see, like, I had heard this was one of her earlier books under Amanda Quick. And so it was written in 1990. Reckless was written or published in 1992. And the amount of growth from this book to Reckless, I think, is huge. Like, very, in my opinion. I mean, that's all that I've read from her. But again, like, I want to add a caveat. Like, I do feel like I have valid points to bring up, but I also feel like I am in a phase where I am being very critical of all books.
I wasn't going to say that because it's up to you to say that. But
no,
the only one I have read at all. So, like, that's a good point. You know, if I read more of hers, I do have a lot of her books, so maybe I'll like one more than this. But no, there's a lot.
It's fun to hear different perspectives. I'm excited to hear.
Yeah. I like how many people are like, if this is because that's true. If people say like this is their lesser one, or if like this is people's worst ones. Because I saw that a lot in the reviews too. Because I need to look at some reviews to remember. There's a couple there's a lot of names of people in this, and I had this sped up so fast. So right before this, I was literally on my computer and I was like, okay, I need to remind myself of some stuff. And there was review after review being like, this isn't my favorite. She's done better. This was okay. This isn't my favorite. Like, they were all saying that. So, and then there was a lot of 1 stars where people just go for it. So I was like, but
yeah.
I also do. I do think that this is probably not a very romantic story.
No.
But then I'm also coming from a person that read across quite a lot of genre. So I feel like maybe for me, the non-romance romance is not like a fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like swoon doesn't always sway you. Like you talk highly about the romance, but you're a lot more looking at the characters and the story from your reviews I've seen.
Yeah.
Like for me, like I need a bigger swoon factor for it to push it up for me. Like a story can be fine, but I still need to like feel it and like. Like I thought Lucas was a very interesting, complex character, and I actually don't like. There's a lot of people that really rip on him. I think they are equally make me want to bang my head.
Yeah.
But I've read way worse heroes than that. But I also don't think it was that. Like he wasn't very romantic to me. No. He was a very much a like put upon person a lot of times, and then like he didn't romance me at all. I was like, okay.
That's the thing. Like, I almost feel like in like this book specifically, it truly doesn't feel like it fits in the category of romance. You know, I feel like it's very, very light on the romance, and even what? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It was an afterthought.
Yeah, it definitely was an afterthought, and that's not why I gave it 2 stars. I can get on board with books that aren't swoony, that aren't like super romantic, like absolutely, but the other elements, they have to be like stacked up pretty high for me, and that's really where I felt like all of it was just kind of a hot mess, honestly. Like the something that really impressed me with Reckless was her plotting ability. Like every single step in that book led to the next event and to the next event. Like it was almost like a textbook study in plotting. It was so cleverly done. I was very impressed with that. And this book doesn't feel like that at all. It sort of feels like the mystery element I did like. I felt like that made sense, but it was also like sort of thrown in there at the end, you know, and it didn't, I mean, even though it was like mentioned earlier, it didn't feel like it had a cohesive story at all. And so for that reason alone, like I've been reading a ton of thrillers recently, and I have become more and more aware of what I want in any book that I pick up. Obviously I love romance. That's never going to go away. But I want a story that is allowing me to get lost in it. And I just could not do that in this book. It just felt like I was constantly getting stuck with things, and I don't know. So I like this. I wanted to mention this comment Stacy said. Something I actually love about Amanda's books are how bonkers they are. I love the bonkers elements. I think they're very fun, and I think it's very much a hallmark of that type of historical romance. Like I just love it. The fact that they would go and meet up for these midnight adventures, I was just like, this is so fun. And that they didn't even have like sex until like way after they'd already had those adventures, because I was like, this has got to be something else. Anyway.
See, and I kept waiting for the bonkers stuff to kick in. Like, to me, there's only two things in this one that were bonkers. There was him agreeing to take her out on these things because he kind of knew it was going to end up ruining her, and then he could get her into marriage, which is what he wanted. And I was like, that's very devious. I appreciate that game, actually. I'm not mad. And then the other thing, like when they stopped the hijacking, I was like, that's cool. I like that this couple just stopped this hijacking and then gave the guy a job because they know he's hijacking before. And like, it's literally the Lord's, it's the reason, like, he hasn't been able to provide for his people until he married her. And so he's like, this is really all my fault. Like, I don't know. That was kind of cool. I like that he had that responsibility, and like, they literally stopped a hijacking.
Yeah.
And he's like, where's your husband? He's like, my husband just chased after that guy that's sitting over there. So he's okay. So like, for me, those were the only like bonkers aspects in this one. Otherwise, it just kind of read like a fortune hunter, but the fortune hunter gets her. And so I was like, okay. I mean, I'm not mad. He's not quite an anti-hero. Like, I don't think he's quite at that level. No. He just is like, I know what I need. And like, if this woman's not seeing what's going on, like, she's going to end up married to me. So, I mean, I liked when her Aunt Cleo, sorry, I'm almost done. I liked when her Aunt Cleo was like, what did you think you were doing? Like, use your brain. And I liked her being called out like that. I know someone was saying like he just doubled down on like, instead of groveling. And I was like, she is supposed to be this intelligent woman. It's kind of what intrigues her to the beginning. And then she acts stupid.
Yeah.
And I like that the people around her were like, you're acting stupid.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to be smart. So instead of just letting her like get away with that and being like, oh, please, like, just love me now. Like, I just want you to love me. The people around her were like, you walked into this.
Yes.
You had him meet up with you at night and you were dressed like a man. And if anyone caught you, you knew you'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
And you got caught. Like, I don't know. I like consequences for actions. And I like that she did. And then when she wanted to act like a little whiny baby about it, he's like, I'm not going to let you like ruin this because you want to get back at me. Like, I have, you know, like, and that's, I mean, what got annoying about her for me is like, she wanted to help his people, but then she was trying to fuck with him to get him to, you know, prove that he was bad. And he's like, you're literally going to make me do this. Okay, fine. You can't have your money because more people need it than you. Fine. You can't have your money. Make me a bad guy. And I was kind of like, good for you. I don't know. Because she was being annoying. So I was like, good for you. You can't have your money. You're going to do stupid shit.
Yeah. I do find that dynamic interesting, but also not romantic at all. Because
that's exactly my point then. There's nothing to say now.
The argument about money sounds so real. Like, I literally argument. It's like, just like, it started with a little thing, like one event, and then it kind of ended up someone declare like a broad statement about like another person's behavior. And I was like, wow, this is so close to like real life that it no longer is like a fun romantic story.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Like, I was enjoying the stories of it, but I didn't feel kind of like swoony for these people at all through it. So that's why, I mean, like, it was a good time, but I was like, man, I don't love these two that much. So whatever. Anyway.
I did like how the book starts. I think that set the tone really well.
For sure.
Yeah. I feel like that's like, this feels like Amanda Quick, how she would start like a book with like a very bizarre, like, ask someone facing the person.
I was so won over with the beginning too that I was like, this is going to be good. This is what I was expecting based on my previous experience. And then, but it just kind of, for me, it didn't have all of the pieces working together like Reckless did for me. Like, the romance wasn't there, the plotting wasn't there. I mean, I've already mentioned this, so I don't want to harp on it more, but the beginning had such great potential, and I was like, this is going to be fantastic. So I feel like the beginning was strong, But also, I think the very end was strong, like the last maybe third. Those were like the best parts, and the middle was just sort of like trying to connect those, and it just didn't really work for me.
Oh, also, this has the thing that I hate. Does everyone remember the thing that I hate about who the villain is? It has the thing that I hate. A bitter ex-girlfriend. I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. Don't use it. Don't use it. I hate it.
Yeah.
Hate it too much.
That's well, when that was revealed, I was like, oh. But then it kind of happened so late in the game. I was like, okay, I'll still keep my 4 stars.
Right.
But
yeah, she was so clearly a bitch though the whole time.
Yeah, she really was.
Like, convenient, and it's like, oh, you didn't know he was fortune hunting? Oopsies. I was like, get out of town.
Yeah. She was so unlikable that it made you really sympathize with him, and he's a very almost like a cardboard type of hero. Like there's nothing really exceptional about him. He's your very typical, what feels very realistic fortune hunter type of a man, and there's nothing about him that is like romance hero worthy. But because she is just like such a pill, it makes you more sympathetic with him. But that I thought was interesting. But it wasn't quite enough to get me really invested in either one of their futures, because I was like, I don't really like either of you. You're both kind of despicable and annoying, you know?
Yeah.
But then they also have good parts, you know, like she wanted to buy the girl, and what was the other thing she wanted to do too? Like, you know, she's that, I don't know, but it's also the typical thing, like the debutante ends up in a den of sin, and then she's got to be like, make a statement about it. And it's like, okay, you saved this one girl, which good, but you're not going to save the one tomorrow night, or like you haven't done anything. All you've done is come in and like save a moment, and then you're like, bye.
feel good about herself and can leave with a clear conscience. Yeah.
Anyway, but she did go shop in the village and go spend her money and all that stuff. And I was like, I won't remember either of these two. Like, literally, if her name wasn't Victoria, which I love the name Victoria in historicals because it's my mom's name, I wouldn't remember it. Like, I won't remember Lucas at all. Like, I literally didn't remember his name was Lucas until I was checking the reviews.
I remembered his name more than hers. I was like, I can't remember.
Vicky. Well, they called her Vicky the whole time. Like,
yeah.
My mom's Vicky, so I was like, "Oh, Vicky, that's cute," but you're annoying.
Yeah. I feel like this one, I definitely remember the character less, and remember like some of the scenario more, like how he's like climb over the ledge, and then she tried to do the same, coming back into his room and then she got stuck on the ledge. I thought that was a fun moment.
That was.
Yep. Well, and again, that's why like I'm not slashing it more than it is, because there was these things that buoyed it along. Like she's trying to be sexy and sneak over and get stuck.
Yeah.
He climbs out naked. And he's like, "Well, I have to go move your armoire because otherwise they're gonna wonder how you got in here." Like, that's funny. That was. But.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, it's okay that you hated that book. I loved that book, but I think they have the teensiest, tiniest similarities in that they're having midnight adventures, and that's where the similarities end. Like they're so completely different after that. But I get it, and I wish there were more midnight adventures. I wish that had more precedence. That could have been like so fun, you know?
Yeah. I mean. So, okay, because we're only 25 minutes in, we should talk more about the book. What did we think of the plotline of like what was causing her nightmares and like what she was having to do because of it? So let's maybe talk about one of the things that made her interesting, because it was a pretty traumatic thing that happened to her, to have her mother die, and then her stepfather did he ever, or he just like tried to assault her, or he touched her? Like, I didn't even remember he was making advances, right? Is that what he wanted? Because he got rid of her mom so he could have her. That's kind of what I was seeing with it.
I thought he was having an affair with the villain woman.
Right. We find that out at the beginning, but it also says he was her lecherous stepfather. Oh. It's like he was also, I think, trying to do stuff to her too. I don't know that he did, but
Yeah,
He was making designs on her. He could have been having an affair with Jessica and also wanting to do stuff to other people because some men are scumbags. So some people are scumbags, both sides, women also, obviously. But, or was it just Jessica who wanted him to get rid of her? I can't remember.
Yeah.
But it was pretty traumatic, and then he like dies because he falls down the stairs, scared of her. So then it's like her mother's murderer is dead, but also he died. So.
See, and that's where I feel like a little bit of the bonkers comes into play because like it was like he died because like she scared him. Like that what
a ghost.
Yeah.
I that definitely is like that's a layer I did not see coming, that she was pretending to be her mother and to scare his stepfather. I didn't see that.
No, that's very complex.
The motive, which I actually really like. And then the fact that the villain also used the same tactic, like leaving an artifact of her stepfather around her proximity. So I thought
that's.
Yeah.
I'm reading
one. Sent her more comments.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. Right, but after her mom died, she was alone with him sometime. Like, I don't know whether she came back. See, that's the thing. That was so far in the, like, there's so much in this book. This book was so long.
How many pages was it? Is it like...
It's 360, so it's not like the longest, but like the audiobook was extremely long.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's mostly the narrator.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I had this out at 2:10 and it still took like 5 hours to get through. Like, that's a long audiobook.
I think it's the same narrator. I think I listened to Reckless and then she talked really slow. So I'm like 2 times speed and I still feel like she's talking like normally. But she's a good narrator. I do enjoy the way she narrates.
I think she really gives it a historical feel. Like she has kind of an old-timey sounding voice, which is fun.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Stacey has.
Right.
Did I already show that one? Yeah, I may have.
A couple of people said it. Nope, that's fine. Like I said, I mean, it doesn't have to do with whether he was actually assaulting her. I mean, he was being gross and he would get drunk and do stuff. Like, he didn't have to have been trying to rape her to have been a gross, uncomfortable person. There are many steps before there. Not great. But yeah.
Monica, this is the next book. It's The Lotus Palace by Jeannie Lynn. I'll type it in the comments since you probably can't see it very well. Monica says she's got it.
Monica, and I'll be posting about it right after. So you won't forget. You could go to sleep. It'll be on my Instagram tomorrow for you. And in the group. I'll post it in the group. So we're excited about that one. Anyway, what else about this? Oh yeah, someone had mentioned it back there that they were the Amber Knight and Lady because they ended up
that's nice.
Going riding in the nights a lot. And then of course stopping the robbery or whatever. Then like the guy that they give a job, it like spreads their legend far and wide, basically. That's pretty cute.
So do you think this is a question that I kept asking myself. So before she finds out that he's like fortune hunting her, you could feel like feelings were starting to happen, things were starting to happen. And then up until like the very end, there's just this animosity between the two of them. So do you think that was effective, putting that early sort of roadblock in there to their relationship? Did that make you more invested in seeing them get together throughout the rest of the book? Or was it other elements of the story that was keeping you going?
Well, no, that's not what it was for me, because I think she was using that as an excuse. Like, in my opinion, like, again, this heroine chose moments to be stupid. And I'm sorry I'm using stupid, but to me that, like, she was smart when the author decided she was smart and she was dumb a lot of the other times. And like, he always said what he needed. Like, he said he needed a wife. He wanted a wife. He needed a wife. Why did you think he wanted and needed a wife? Like, what? If people have been fortune hunting you all the time, and then this suave, smooth one comes in and is letting you do all these things, what do you think? that's going on? Like, what do you think was going on? Anyway, so I mostly like what was keeping them apart in the second half. I was frustrated with her.
Mhm.
I was just more interested in like
Mhm.
getting through it. Like, I don't think it was that was pushing me through the story. It
Mhm.
was because it was a book club book that was pushing me through the story.
Mm.
So, there's your answer. Would I have finished this on my own? No, I would not. But I also wouldn't have started it without them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's complete transparency. I would have, because like here's the straight up truth. For books like this, generally written before the year 2000, generally, if I'm not like really hooked in the first like 50 pages, that's always been my rule for the last 5 years. If a book doesn't have me hooked within 50 pages, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, sure, there was a bit of an interesting setup, but like, there's too many characters introduced. There was like so many different levels going on. I mean, because it's an old school, like the flirty, swoony between them wasn't like enough where that's keeping me going.
Mm.
That's like where I was at. So what's keeping me going is I was a book club book, and then I was mildly entertained while I was through it. Like,
Nice.
so that's where I understand your 2 stars, because I was like, this would have been a DNF, not because it was horrible or I like hated anything, but also I don't have time to read books that I don't have to be reading, and this wasn't a book that I would have had to be reading if I didn't have to read it. Roundabout.
Yeah.
Like, whereas like, I read a Teresa Medeiros for a book club, and then I immediately was like, I'm reading another one of her books immediately. I loved it so much, and I want to read more of them. And this, I was like, okay, people tell me there's books that are better, but she was like, she's not going to be at the top of my priority list after this. So
I do feel like this is like, it was mentioned in the comments earlier, like the vibes that you get in this, like that's what you're going to get from her in her other books. Like this is very similar. I mean, I'm an expert because I've read 2 now, but this was very similar in that way to the other one that I read. So I do want to read like the fossil one. I still haven't read that one. I want to read.
Yeah.
Ravage definitely is, I feel, I mean, I only read 3, so I feel
so much further ahead than us
experts, but Ravage felt the most balanced, because I feel like I actually like this one a bit more than Reckless.
Reckless
actually, for me, felt a little bit too chaotic. Like that one had way more stuff going on.
Isn't that funny? Different perspectives. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It definitely was chaotic. Yeah, for sure. I would agree with you that it's more chaotic than this one too.
Well, to the answer of like, I would read a book with these vibes again with a better like plot and mystery. So that's where I mean, like, I'm not opposed to another one of hers. I'll probably ask my friends who've read a bunch of them and pick the best one.
Yeah.
Because I'm okay with the vibes. Like this, again, it had pleasant, that it was fine. But if I was going to read it on my own, I would need one that like, okay, I'm going to need the mystery or the plot line to be like more than this one was. So yeah.
Yeah.
But
her books remind me so much of just like adventure type books,
that's what I've heard.
And I find that very like charming. And so like as I was reading this and I was giving it like I knew it was going to be a 2-star, and I'm like, how much of that is my mood, like truly, because I really tried to go in this, like I went into it thinking I was going to like it, but like I just found myself getting annoyed with certain things and just checking out, but again, like I don't think it was necessarily bad. And I do feel like in 1990 is when it was published, so probably written in 1989, which was a long time ago. So I think it's pretty impressive. And I love that I don't know of another author writing at this time who had such a focus on an adventurous heroine. I think that like there was something that I read in a review. Somebody was really praising this book in a review blog that I found online, and they were talking about how they felt like the way that she wrote the female character was so true to the time. Like it was very realistic, and she only gave her a little bit of like wiggle room to sort of be independent, where the rest of it felt very true to the time. And I think that's pretty accurate. What do you think? Do you guys agree with that? Because I feel like something that historical romance is often criticized of with currently published books is that the heroine has an unrealistic amount of independence and agency.
That's
you know,
true.
Mhm.
Who
so
was her, like I know her aunt, like she has her aunt, but like did it ever say like who's her guardian in this?
I don't remember if it
Because
did say
where
that.
you because when you say that, that rings true to me. What this is missing is like with her like stepfather being dead, I know she has her aunt Cleo, but her aunt Cleo can't like technically be her guardian.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Because she's a woman too. So like who is like
Yeah.
the boss of her? Like who's the boss of her? Like I know she is able to say no. Like she's able to say no to him just on her own. You know,
Right.
not to be that way. But for the time it's set, to say like she only has a little bit of independence. Well, who's her boss? Like who's the boss for her?
Yeah.
Not to put a fine point on it, but there's usually a cousin or a
Right.
something somewhere who
Yeah.
maybe he's being like, she can do what she wants. She's a spinster. She's this, like whatever. I
That's
don't
very
care.
true. Yeah.
Who's the one who's telling her what she can do? Because otherwise, like who's the one who's shaming her? You know, like when she gets caught,
Right.
like, who's
Yeah.
the one who's going to shame her out of it? Who's going to make her do something? Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
That's a really good point, actually.
Like-
I hadn't even thought about that.
Like I didn't even think of it until you're pointing out the differences, because that's really true. That's something that it is in a lot of newer historicals where it's just like they just do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah.
That's like the phase we're in. But I'm also like, but I like when we're not allowed to get away with stuff, and then we have to sneak more. You know, we have to figure it out more. You know, to do the daring things. And
Yeah.
this, it's like, yeah, there's propriety's sake, but like, who's the one who's going to disown her if she didn't marry him for what she did?
Right.
Like they're like, oh, she gets shunned, and she's like, so if she really doesn't want to get married, go live at the home then. Which I guess she doesn't want to because she thinks it's haunted now with that guy's ghost or whatever. But I mean, if she was the one haunting the place, who got it? You know, like when her, I don't know. That's just coming. Her stepfather's dead. Like, where's all the money from? Like, how is she an heiress? Because if she's an heiress, like there has to be an earldom or a dukedom or a something behind her. Now I want to know this. How is she just an heiress running around like with this money and the freedom to like say yes or no to people whenever?
That is such a good point. Like I didn't even consider that. Yeah.
Yeah, mind blown with so many.
Otherwise, if she really doesn't have a boss, she could have just said, well, fine, I guess I can't have my adventures in town, but I'm gonna go home and you're not making me get married. Because she was so like, I will not. Even though I like this guy, I will not marry anybody. And I'm like, where's her freedom coming from then? Because she's not a widow. She's not a... Anyway, okay.
Let's see some of the comments. I think it was more her attitude and actions that bothered me. When she arrives at the estate, she says that she understands the magnitude her money will provide the estate, but chooses to ignore it. Yeah. That is a very, very good point, Stacy, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Let's share Linda's comment. Was anyone else expecting Lady Atherton to offer to be his lover after Lucas married Victoria?
Lady Atherton is Jessica, right? Who's that?
Yes. Yeah, it is. It is Jessica, yes.
Let's stick with one name because there's too many. Interesting.
No, nobody wants to live in a haunted mansion, Jen.
Well, yeah, I know, but somebody owns it.
Yeah,
I agree. That's why I was like, yeah, I'd rather marry the other guy instead. But I'm like, who owns it though?
Yeah, she also is making investments with her aunt's solicitor.
Yeah.
I thought her dad was like a wealthy merchant of some sort before he died. I could have that. I did not remember the details of this book.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Nope, I know.
There was so much.
I usually take notes for like book club books, but I did not do it this time. So
I think the dad being wealthy, it makes sense because then like the dad died and the mom married someone else for protection, and then like Jessica and that guy wanted to get rid of her so they could have the money. Would be my guess, right?
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yes.
Okay. So then really all she had was like, she's able to get into these parties and do this stuff because she's rich, because they're hoping they can marry their sons to her, and she just keeps saying no. So then she's keep going to party. Okay, now we got to figure it out. But still, it's weird that.
Yeah, there probably should be someone.
Yeah. Right. Even if her dad died, then I feel like she shouldn't have, I don't know, but that's the thing. If he wasn't a duke or a lord or earl or whatever, and he was just that, then there wouldn't be anybody who could control her money.
Yeah.
It would just be, she would have it. So, but so that's the thing. Then why marrying Lucas? She did literally hand over everything.
Right.
Okay. Well, it makes sense. It makes sense why she didn't want to get married. I'm just like, if there's no one to shame you, like if you're not from the aristocracy, then there's nothing to lose, really, is where, like, you know, it's kind of like one way or the other. It's like you're an heiress and they want your money, but also you're from nothing. So then if they disapprove of you, well, then leave. And go back. Go, like, if you don't want to live in that mansion, go get a different one. Anyway, it's all right. I didn't mean to get too squeaky about it. I was just kind of like, wait, how is she allowed to do what she wants?
No, I think that's a really good point that honestly never even crossed my mind. I do feel like in most cases, even with the modern ones where they clearly are way more independent than they would be able to be, I still feel like most of the time I can like suspend my disbelief and be like, okay, sure.
I mean,
but
I'm not.
But then you bring it up, and I'm like, that's a good point. Like,
right. It's only a point to me because other books do it a different way. That's
true.
Like for this story, that's obviously not the most important thing. Either way, like once they get married, like he's the one who gets it all. Which is why, if you're an independent woman, why you would like you better actually love the guy, and why it felt like such a betrayal that she felt tricked into it, even though she was being stupid. I keep coming back to it. You were seeking out dressed like a man and you asked him to take you to brothels, and he even says no, so then she acts like, oh, you let me do this, like he told you no over and over again.
Oh no. Wait, we lost her. Hopefully she comes back. but that I feel like she was such a naive character. Like, I mean, I feel like all historical romance heroines are naive to a certain extent, but I felt like she was in a lot of ways. Like, even when she went to the brothel, she was just like so completely clueless about what was happening there. Yeah. But in other ways, she really wasn't. And I don't know if that added to my dislike of her or if it helped me sort of like her more, because usually when a heroine is naive, a part of me finds that like endearing, especially if she's being taken advantage of. But like Jen was talking about, like it just seemed very, should I just remove her? I'll kick her out and she'll come back. Hopefully she'll come back.
No.
But sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I totally agree, because I feel like in some way the hero and the heroine feel like real individuals because they're really flawed, and then they all have like certain blind spots that she's really smart in some aspect, but then like she also had moments where she just like doesn't know much at all, and then that's same go with the way they kind of argue back and forth. It's like they're both valid, but then they just couldn't see from each other's perspective.
Yeah, and I think that when we were talking about how the heroine seemed like a pretty realistic heroine for the time, I think I'm curious about, I feel like we in general maybe have a more realistic picture of what women might have been like, but men I think sort of get categorized into like, well, they're very clearly a rake, or they very clearly have this type of behavior. And I feel like this hero felt super realistic to me, but also a little bit more, not really humble, but like genuine with his desires to like, he was clearly, he wanted her money, but he also wasn't like
he's not complete thing.
Yeah,
like totally. Like I don't think he's definitely not like a Sunni hero.
No,
he's quite a logical individual that you can see him being a real person. Like he has a motive and he got it, but then he still care about Victoria. Like he still care about her feelings. So even though he still need to get his money somehow, but it's not like he's just taking it from under her.
So in that aspect, like I liked him just because he was very like no nonsense, seemed like a very typical man that you would come across in that time. Here she is, we'll bring her back. Hi.
Is it Rake Appreciation Society or something?
I know, right?
Anyway,
you make me feel better though when it's not just me having technical
Gosh.
difficulties. So
whatever. We're back. That's how you shut me up. It stops.
we were just talking about the hero and how he felt like a realistic man.
Yes.
But I was wondering, like, I don't really know that I don't know that anybody in these really has a great idea of what a realistic man or woman at that time would be like, but he felt very real to me, and less heroic in that way, but also a little bit more relatable just as a character,
Right.
So that's where I feel like it is a romance, but it has so many other elements of it that I'm like, it doesn't feel like a romance, like there's a lot of it isn't that larger than life romance experience that you're wanting, but it does still have romance there. So it's interesting. I feel like it's a little hard to categorize, but
yeah. I feel like that's kind of the same with all her, at least the one I've read. They kind of cross about different genre. I mean, this one definitely feels a bit more like heavier on the mystery suspense and almost like just a historical fiction in terms of like the romance aspect. This is not very over the top. It's like very realistic.
Yeah, it is. Like, so there's that fantasy element of it is lacking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I also feel like it's a bit of a distant third person, like you're not like, I don't know, I didn't feel their emotions much until they were reacting to things.
Very true. Yeah.
That's something that I'm more sensitive to these days. That's something that I noticed because it just felt like we were like further away from that. Now, that's something that I feel like is a lot in older historicals. That was definitely a style point for, you're not as like up close in their heads for a lot of
things. I think that's just a general fiction style at that time, I would say. Just
Whereas when things get more romantic, like you have the hero in his head thinking about how beautiful she is, or the heroine, thinking more dreamy thoughts, and I feel like we don't get as much of that. So that's why I think it feels more like a historical fiction, is because there's sexual acts that happen in this. Like there's some on-page explicit sex, but it's also, like I said, it there's not a lot of like build up to when they would have it. It's just be
so
like fine to do his, and like she was like, oh, I was coming to your room because I wanted that, but like then she's not romantic in the moment. She's like mad that things went wrong, so it's just like we go from there's no mood that gets set at all. We just start like, now we're having sex and now it was over, okay. But come on, like when they're like, right when you read like a romance, half of it is mood being set. There's no foreplay for the reader. Like there might be foreplay happening in the book, but it's not happening when you're reading. You're just like, oh, okay, they're doing this now, all right,
and that I think is another compelling argument for how it feels like just a general adventure novel, but written with the female main character, because that would be typical for like an adventure novel written for men, I would think, at that time, where like, I don't know, I've never read those, but I'm assuming it would be
well, and I feel like if we, not even if we didn't have the sex in it, but if we never saw them like in their bed chambers, how different would this book be? When you think about it. And like, again, not all romances is like the physical parts essential, but I wouldn't have felt honestly like I was missing much from this one if it was, oh, thanks Candace, love you too, if it wasn't there. And I mean, like, I'm looking at this from a romance reader's eye. So for me, that's important parts of it. It's not always that I need, Crystal and I laugh about this a lot because I call myself like, I'm a horn dog for my books, and I expect a certain amount of things if you've told me that this is a book with sex in it. If you're telling me it's not, then fine. But this is a book that if I, if we'd taken those out, what missing from their relationship, like he still could have been wanting her to say she loves him. He said, there was no connection really through their physical touching. And like, even in a romance that isn't physical, like explicit, I should feel something when they touch each other, and I don't feel that in here.
And the only thing that it really does is move the plot forward in the beginning. that's why it's. But
Right.
yeah,
He's trying to win
agree.
her over for certain things.
Yeah.
So
and definitely like the other scenes that were there in this book, they felt like so clinical, where I was honestly almost like, oh, cringing, you know.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting distinction to call out for sure. Yeah, the idea of like if the physical aspect has any kind of symbolism or thematic tie into like the story that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not as much in this one.
Right.
It's more like a bit of a bonus throw in there.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Well, right. And like there definitely are the, you know, I think of like Crystal, like if you are reading a thriller or mystery and there happens to be like sex happening in it, you're like, oh well, this author's just throwing that in there to be titillating. It's not probably important to the plot overall, right? And again, that's how I would feel about this. Is like this is billed as a historical romance. And again, because there are horror novels, there are also horror novels with romance. There are historical novels with romance in them that's not important. And for this one, the central plot is like the marriage is a plot device because he needs an heiress for his people. But if we never saw the romantic parts of it, like if they had just been compromised without any attempt at that, how different is this story? I don't think it's different. And that doesn't make it bad, but it makes it as a romance reader, I'm like, well, if the romance isn't essential to the story, then it's a historical novel with romance. It's not it's a romantic historical. So
it almost felt like she had like check marks that she needed to include in order to have it be published under and categorized under this banner. You know, like that's almost what it felt like, because I feel like at its heart, this is like a mystery adventure in a historical setting.
Yeah.
And the other, so it's interesting to me, like, I don't know, I just find that very interesting that it doesn't feel, and I don't necessarily think that that's bad. It's just interesting.
I guess in some way, maybe Amanda Quick would be a nice gateway drug to get into historical romance if you're reading other genre before. Yeah,
for sure. I think that's a really good call.
Yeah, if people liked mysteries or they liked, you know,
historical fiction.
Yeah, that's true. Because well, and again sorry, trying to organize it. People usually say that about an erotic romance where like an erotic romance, like without the sex, the story wouldn't work then because it's supposed to be putting it through. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be explicit. It just means that the physical part like is putting the story forward. Like the story doesn't exist if you take the sex scenes out. Whereas like any other kind, like if you took the sex scenes out, it would still like be a romance. It would still like be a thing. Like that's the differentiation. And so that's what I mean about this is like if my, you know, well, my grandma read romance, but you get it. Like if my grandma had read this and I had taped the sex scene pages together for whatever reason, like grandma wouldn't have missed out on anything in this story. Same story happening. Whereas like a romance to me that is really like a gut wrenching one that really has me in it has all of those aspects inside of it. Like even if those sex scenes were to be fade to black, they have to be there to show the progression of the relationship. I don't want to read those if that's what's happening, but it would still be a romance that the romance was the central point, even if like you close the door on the sex scene. Does that make sense? Am I making sense where I'm walking to this? Because like,
it makes sense.
You know, like, because there are those compelling romances that never have explicit anything on a page, and it's still a romance at the central everything, you know. Whereas then you have erotic romance where you have to have the sex in it for it to be romance. So those are all the different things. So, yeah. But overall, like, I didn't hate this.
Yeah,
And
I do feel you guys should give Ravish a try because I feel like that's probably the most romantic out of the one I've read.
Good to know.
Yeah.
I definitely plan to read that one. I'm not giving up on her for sure. I want to read Ravished and the one with the ghost hunter, which I can't remember what that one is called. It's purple cover, I think.
Right.
I definitely want to read more.
I do find it interesting in the way she release these because she has like 3 that started with S, but they're not related to each other. And then she also has 3 that start with R.
Right.
Like, one more other than Ravage and Reckless, but they're not.
She has Desire. Like there's 3 D's, there's 3 M's, there's 3 R's, 3 S's. Like I think. Yeah. What's that lady, Sue Grafton? She's like Sue Grafton, but with romance. That lady did A is for Alibi, B is for blah, 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 and my mom read all those. The mystery series.
Something I wanted to do and I didn't is I wanted to, like, I'm not even entirely sure what genres she writes under her other, is her actual name Jane Ann Krentz, and then she has Castle.
Right. There's a couple, yeah. Something Castle, yeah.
Well, something I think Castle. Because the one's a paranormal one, isn't it? Is that the Jane Ann?
I thought Jane Ann Krentz was her mysteries.
Okay.
But I don't know. But I was gonna look that up because I think it would be really interesting to see what, I don't know much about her at all, but what did she start with? What was the first book that she wrote? And then how did she branch off into like, these are historical romances or these are dangerous? That's the ghost one. That's right.
Krentz.
Thank you.
Krentz.
That's the one I want to read, the ghost one for sure. Jane Ann Krentz. I think that's her actual name, but I can't remember.
Yeah, it says in the back. It says Jane Krentz is real.
I don't have that.
Jane Castle. Yes. Okay.
Jane Castle.
Okay. Yeah. I knew she had a paranormal one.
Paranormal. Right. Okay.
And then the other ones are mysteries, and then these are interesting.
I just find that really kind of fascinating to see like authors' careers, like where they start and then like where they finish. So I'd be really curious to know. This was probably not her first, right? Like, I don't know why you would start with a pen name. That doesn't make sense. So probably Jane Ann Krentz is her first. I'm going to have to look that up because I'm really curious about that now.
I mean, they talk about it on the Fated Mates episode.
That's right. She was on there, wasn't she? I'll have to listen to that.
I mean, it's interesting too because there was like all of those authors who started around the same time who did this. You know, like Catherine Coulter did the same thing. She had her FBI and her historicals coming out.
That's true. Yeah.
Nora Roberts has some of everything. Like,
that's also true. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some like we just even have to look because I'm sure there's ones that we just don't even know. And now, like a Jennifer Ashley does it too. She has paranormal, historical romance, and mystery, and paranormal. She has all those. So
yeah, that's so interesting. I wonder why it's always like historical and then like does the publisher give them like a binder? Here are all the historical facts, and here are all the modern FBI spy facts that you can use for your true genre that you're gonna write.
Well, I feel like they're both the genres that you can go on ad nauseum for. You know, like if you're writing crime, you can be writing 2 novels a year forever.
That's true, for sure.
You put in the tiniest bit of character progression and then move to the next crime. You know, like when I was reading Catherine Coulter's, I think I read the first 8, and she used the same name for both. So that was helpful. She did Catherine Coulter, like I read the first 8 in her FBI ones, and like they only took those 8 only took place over 2 years. So like the characters were just making these like tiny movements because it's mostly about the case.
Yeah.
Have a little kiss here or a sex scene there, like usually one sex scene a book, and then it still is a little romantic for your people. And she's still writing for those characters. Like she's been writing for those characters for like 30 years in the FBI. And it's probably, I don't know, I'm sure it's been 30 years in the timeline too, but I feel like
that's interesting that she lost her real name while in a publishing contract. This is just fascinating to me. Contemporary is Jane.
Some people are big fans. I love that.
Yeah. And I do see the appeal. I mean, it's a fun book. Like it is a very escapist, fun. I mean, it wasn't for me, but I do see how other people would find it to be that way.
I did enjoy it, so I did at least one.
Well, I'm glad. Like, glad it was kind of fun because I'm pretty sure this one is a clean romance. So I'm a little like I'm nervous about that, but I'm excited.
You picked this one. This one is your choice. So I picked this one and I didn't like it.
It was because I said we need to do Jeannie Lynn, and you're like, yes, we need to do Jeannie Lynn.
I'm not saying I fought you. I am crediting you.
There was only 4 of her books that had audio, and the other 3 are in a series. So
I am excited about it. I think it's going to be.
I'm excited because it's so different, but it's also like it's a mistress trope just in a different country. So because she could only ever be a concubine, and I'm like, that's basically a mistress, but even worse.
This one is fairly 2013, so 9 years old.
10,
9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very excited about that one, actually. And it's published by Harlequin, but it's clean. Are you for real?
I don't know that. I'm just saying when I listened to the interview about it, I heard they were pretty clean.
Yeah.
Harlequin does not always have explicit sex.
I guess I just always assumed that they did.
They do not. Harlequin does teen books too.
Yeah, but
some of my favorite series were by Harlequin teen because the romance was really good. Fantasy romances. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I hope so. My point is I'm going in believing it's going to be pretty clean. And then if it's not, I'll be like, ooh, yeah. But I'm going to expect it to be pretty buttoned up there. So.
Well, thank you so much. Does anyone have anything else they want to chit chat about, or should we end? It's been an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, this is for Crystal. This is such a tangent, but I actually really want to chat about the Daisy Darker with you.
Oh, Justin!
Because I saw the rating on Goodreads, I was like, what?
Did you? Okay, what did you rate it?
3.
Oh gosh, I hated that book so bad.
It was fine. I actually liked the twist at the end. I was like, this is different, but I found the middle really boring.
That is like my absolutely most hated thriller ending. I hate that ending so bad. It feels like such a cop-out. Oh my gosh, I hate it. I was so disappointed in that book. I was expecting such good things. That's the first book I've read by that author. I have a lot of hers.
Oh.
And I've heard such great things about her, and it was like and then there were none retelling type of thing, and I was like, this is gonna be so good. And I was like, I am so bored. I'm so bored.
Here's the thing with any kind of like thriller or whatever, when there's a twist that to some people is like, oh my God, that's totally been there. Is like for someone that's always their first twist like that they've ever seen.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So when there's your first twist that like, oh, that person was this, or oh, it's a ghost, or like, oh, it's this, it's like, wow, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And for everyone else, they're like, this is the 50th millionth novel. And it's not new.
It's just it's so aggravating for me because like I'm on a Karen Slaughter kick right now. Like I just cannot get enough of her books. But I feel like out of the thrillers I've read this year, Daisy Darker and then the Riley Sager one, they both had that twist at the end, and I was like, I hate it so bad.
I have read the Riley Sager one. I actually like that one a lot. I think because I actually approached it as a satire. I
remember you said that. Yeah.
So I like that, but then because I read that, and then Daisy Darker, I didn't know everyone saying there's a big twist. And then because of Riley Sager, I kind of pick up the clue halfway through. I was like, oh, I think the twist is this. And then it was.
Oh gosh. And see, I was so bored. I was so bored with that book that I was like not even trying to put clues together. I was just like I felt like the constant flashbacks just like did not work at all because it just dropped the tension so much.
Yeah.
I was disappointed.
Definitely my least favorite book from her. I do like Rock, Paper, Scissors a lot.
Is that one good? I have His and Hers from Libby right now.
Really good too.
Yeah.
That one also for me is too crazy. I was like, okay, this is too many twists.
I'm excited for October. I put my TBR together and I'm like, I'm ready to get spooky with some stuff.
Yeah.
I used to do it all the time. Like that was what I mostly read for a good period of time.
I used to constantly just like have a palate cleanser of a thriller, and I haven't done that since like COVID. And now I'm just sort of at like a breaking point where I'm like, I am not getting what I want from romance. I need something else. And I found it in Karen Slaughter for right now. Like I haven't had a bad book from her, and I'm kind of obsessed. Yeah. I'm late to the party. I know she's very well loved by everybody who reads thrillers, but yeah.
It's good though. You just, you can break yourself on some sad stuff and like scary things. And then it'll be like, oh, the fresh water. What? Romance is amazing. I'm coming back again.
Yeah.
It's good. Anyway, well, thanks, friends.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming and listening to us. This was a fun chat, and we will see you next month. Thank you so much, Justin, for coming and talking with us. That was such a treat. It was just wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
It was great. I'd love to have you
glad
back
because
again.
you have positive things to say.
I know. I feel like I am always so negative. I am sorry, but
well, last month everyone was poo-pooing.
That's true.
Book, and we were like, it's amazing.
That's true. That is true. That's true. Okay, I don't feel so bad. All right, for real now. Goodbye, y'all.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
Wait, I pushed the wrong button. Okay.